Lowering the age of voting to 16 in Australia has its difficulties, as outlined. The issue is the fundamental difference between the compulsory voting system and the non-compulsory voting system. The core difference is that a lot of the dynamics surrounding each affects the political culture. The differences in why in Australia lowering the age of voting to 16 is not necessarily the most optimal path is due to the reality of the compulsory voting system. To compare, the difference is if you are eligible to vote and are on the roster under a non-compulsory voting system, you can opt out of voting if the candidates do not align with you or your values. That has its implications and why, in some areas, it's more palatable to potentially lower the age of voting because you don't have to worry about a lot of the concerns about how do you punish those who do not vote. Of course, in this example, the Australian Greens have proposed an exemption for 16 and 17-year-olds regarding this by saying that if the bill should be proposed with the ruling that 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds in Australia are to not be fined for non-voting. But the issue here is, how do you actually know how it will turn out? This issue does not exist under non-compulsory voting systems. As with the case around the UK, it is a matter where in the UK, them lowering the voting age is actually more palatable compared to Australia in this example, because in the UK there is no fines for not voting and you can enroll in the system to be on the electoral system, but there is no punishment for not attending elections. Whereas in Australia it's the opposite. They like to encourage participation in elections in the UK rather than saying it's a duty and there's a punishment. Therefore, this leaves Australia in a really weird ground regarding the discussion around electoral voting. That being, ultimately, given the lack of free voting, what do you do? Everything in green is compulsory voting. Everything in red is non-compulsory voting. The issue, therefore, is Australia is facing the issue of lowering the age of voting, dealing with a minority position on the stance of how to govern the nation. Thus, the arguments between compulsory voting and non-compulsory voting matters, as the shifting of demographics have to factor in to the political cultures. Now, how do you see this? Do you think that compulsory voting and lowering the age of voting can be compatible? And if so, how? Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoy your day.